The DevOps Foundation Course. Lesson 1. Why DevOps? Welcome to Lesson 1. In this lesson, we'll study the need for DevOps. This lesson includes the business perspective, the IT perspective, common stereotypes. As you study, think about your own organization and whether any of these areas are particularly relevant. Let's start by looking at the business perspective. The diagram on your screen shows a traditional view of how new services are delivered to the business. The business identifies a need or an area for innovation, which development then creates using a waterfall development methodology before passing it to operations to run. There are some disadvantages to this approach that we need to consider. Let's consider this topic with an exercise. Plan to spend 20 minutes on this exercise and don't forget to compare your results with the suggested solution. Remember, your results will be based on your own experience, so you might find you've got some different results to our suggestions. This isn't a bad thing. Traditional waterfall development projects can take 18 to 24 months to deliver. What are the disadvantages of working in this way? Try and look at this question from 3 perspectives: the business, development teams, and operation teams. Good luck! Remember, when you've finished, click the Next button to move on. What this exercise is encouraging you to think about is the idea that for many organizations, the cadence between the business, IT development, and IT operations is off. In a perfect organization, there would be a rhythmic flow between the business, development, and operations, unimpeded by bottlenecks, overcapacity, or undercapacity. Cadence refers to a flow, a rhythm, or a pattern of events. If our cadence is off, there will be a mismatch between what the business wants, when they want it, and what can IT deliver. Many businesses now recognize they need to innovate quickly to survive. Technology can deliver competitive edge, and the pace of change is increasing constantly. Failing to change can lead to customer dissatisfaction, a poor customer experience, and a reduced level of competitiveness. This lack of cadence can lead the business to find it is wasting resources, losing productivity, and incurring higher levels of cost and risk. Let's think about some examples of companies that failed to adapt and lost their edge. Kodak is a great example. This company started out as an innovator, commercializing the camera through their film, their Instamatic camera, and their handheld movie camera. When digital photography arrived, Kodak failed to exploit the opportunity with serious consequences. Blockbuster is another example. This company successfully made the change from video to DVD, but failed to adapt to home video streaming. Can you think of any other examples? The message is simple: evolve or risk obsolescence. Business development teams are one area where improvements have been made. Around the millennium, development teams started to adopt agile methodologies that allowed them to release more frequently. These agile methodologies were increasing the flow of work and IT's potential to deliver more quickly. However, improvements in isolation can only give limited benefits. If operations aren't ready to receive more frequent releases, the bottleneck is simply moved further downstream and the releases are delayed. Many organizations have operations functions that are structured in a bureaucratic way, with too much focus on process activities rather than process results. They might have implemented IT service management frameworks such as ITIL, but they have adopted them in a form that misinterprets what ITIL is meant to deliver. To be able to work effectively with agile development functions, operations needs to be instilling agile thinking into service management processes, engaged at an early point during the life cycle of a service, defining their requirements for training, knowledge, supportability, and so on, and leveraging more automation for repeatable tasks. An agile development team that meets with rigorous, unbending processes in the operational team will not be able to deliver to its full potential and will impede the business's ability to benefit from faster deployments. To fully deliver business value, Dev and Ops both need to be agile. Agile behaviors are manifested when processes are streamlined and waste is reduced. This allows both functions to move quickly when the situation requires it and when the level of risk allows. The diagram on screen shows how DevOps creates an environment where continuous delivery can flourish. Click on Continuous Delivery to learn more. Continuous delivery is defined as an approach that means software is always in a releasable state, allowing an organization to introduce incremental changes in smaller batches. Continuous delivery will not, of course, be suitable for all projects. Some projects require great rigor and a slower pace. For example, a new financial system may need to meet legislative requirements and be audited at each change point. Some projects have very clearly defined requirements and so don't gain any value from an incremental approach. The main point is that the approach used must meet the business requirements. If projects move so slowly that they have a negative effect on the business, something has to change. Remember, adopting Agile isn't a yes or no decision. It is about defining what level of Agile is appropriate for the organization or for the project. When DevOps works well, everyone wins. Dev and Ops work together to support the business and drive value. Effective DevOps allows organizations to benefit from speed, productivity, and quality, not just pick one of the three. When the business knows it can rely on IT, it is free to be more innovative in its own thinking. This can lead to even greater gains as the business proposes new directions and IT delivers them, creating a virtuous cycle. Let's complete our look at the business perspective with a quote from Clyde Logg, founder of StreamStep. Agile was instrumental in development, regaining the trust in the business, but it unintentionally left IT operations behind. DevOps is a way for the business to regain trust in the entire IT organization as a whole. Okay, let's move on now and look at the need for DevOps from IT's perspective. There's a common IT stereotype that Dev and Ops do not get along. If there is a disconnect between the traditional Dev activities and Ops activities, it can lead to conflict and inefficiency. The scope of Dev and Ops activity can be seen as opposite ends of a scale. Dev is encouraged to create change. Ops is encouraged to maintain stability, perhaps by resisting making changes. These conflicting goals can lead to confusion and mistrust. From a business perspective, this can be manifested through slow time to market, longer deployment cycles, increasing outages, and technical debt. If technical debt isn't a term you've heard before, click on it for a definition. What does technical debt mean? Technical debt is a programming concept. It reflects the extra development work that can result when code that is easy to implement in the short term is used, instead of applying the best overall solution. To put it another way, taking a shortcut now may lead to problems or extra work in the future. Technical debt may also be known as design debt. We've discussed the conflicts that can arise between Dev and Ops. What does the business want? The diagram on screen shows that there are extreme ends of the spectrum. Too much focus on either end is not desirable. Click on Extreme Focus on Change and Extreme Focus on Stability to see some consequences of too much focus on these areas. Each business will have its own requirements and needs to consider the context within which it operates. For example, what regulations or legislation apply. Ultimately, businesses want a balance between getting the change they need and the stability they need. Their business goals will dictate if they, for example, are prepared to have more downtime in return for faster deployments. Too much focus on change can lead to operational activities not being carried out because staff are focused on development, change being carried out too quickly without enough attention to risk management, changes being poorly documented, poor end-user experience and lack of communication. Can you think of any other effects? Too much focus on stability can lead to An environment where no change is carried out. Failure to meet business needs. The business losing faith in IT and creating its own solutions. Increased risk as security patches and upgrades aren't implemented. What other consequences might there be? Dictate if they, for example, are prepared to have more downtime in return for faster deployments.